Oh yes, this is the Hardcore Marketing Show. I'm Casey Cheshire, your host for this epic journey. And today's show, sponsored by Cheshire Impact, on a mission to help people maximize their use of Pardot and Salesforce. CheshireImpact.com. Bam. Hey everyone. Before we get started with the show, I'm excited to announce two things. First is that my book, Marketing Automation Unleashed, is now live on Amazon. So go get it. The second thing is we have a new sponsor, Qualified.com. I'm going to tell you about them in the next couple seconds here, and also how you can get a free copy of my book thanks to them. So who are these people? Well, Qualified is the #1 live chat and chatbot platform for Salesforce and Pardot. Sales reps can have real-time, personalized conversations with who? Your hottest website visitors. So I want you to know, I don't just partner with anyone. I genuinely love these guys. And the platform, we use it at my company. Our sales team loves it. We've closed a lot of deals based on it. Had a lot of great conversations with prospects too. So, a lot of marketing these days is what? Hurry up and wait, right? Fill out this form. And then if we pass you over to sales, maybe you'll swap 6 emails with them to find a good time to talk. But what if a prospect is doing research right now and they would chat now? Why not give them the opportunity? So the best part is your company actually decides what leads are worth a live chat. There's a lot of noise out there. You don't want to talk to everyone. So Qualified actually connects to Salesforce and Pardot, and it's able to pull in lead and contact information so you can specifically know if you're talking to a VIP, a VP, a decision maker. It's really kind of like magic. Now, if you don't know who someone is, well, what happens then, Casey? Well, that's when the bots come in handy. Chat bots can then ask questions to further qualify a lead, find out if maybe this is someone you do want to talk to. And they can book meetings while your sales team is out. And they can wake up the next morning with a bunch of meetings on their calendar. Now, here's the promo. If you are a company that wants to give your sales team this ability, right, to be able to talk to decision makers right when they're on your website, do this. Go to qualified.com and start a chat, right? They use their own tool, of course. Start a chat. Tell them that Casey sent you. If you have Salesforce Pardot, when you schedule and then do a demo, they will send you a free copy of my book, Marketing Automation Unleashed. Not bad, right? Well, it's only while supplies last. So hop on this thing today. And that's it for sponsors. Let's get to the show. We're live. And man, I am excited for this one. This is special. This is something that whether you're in marketing, you're in sales, wherever you're in business you're in, this is going to be something that you want to pay attention to. And oftentimes we have experts that talk, and we do have an expert that has thought leadership in the world of sales and marketing, but there's something else here. She is an expert in emotional intelligence, behavioral science. And we know in the marketing world, we're dealing with behaviors all the time. So this is a great thing to unlock. She, 2019 Inspirational Women in Literature, Media, and Journalism Award. Like, holy heck, she's on the show with us. Like, amazing. Creator of the Curiosity Code Index, author, keynote speaker, nationally syndicated radio host. What? CEO of Tonerra, Dr. Diane Hamilton. Welcome.
Woohoo! Wow, that sounded great. Thank you. I mean,
Thank you.
I feel like I want to drop the mic right there,
You just leave now, right? That we set them up. I survived that intro, but man, there's so much. You've been up to so many things.
So much. Once you've done enough years of work, man, it sounds like you've done something, doesn't it?
Yeah, it sort of adds up a little bit there.
Yeah, it does.
Well, thank you for being on here, because I really want to, we have a lot of marketers listening, a lot of people in sales as well. And I want to get into, and also my dad. So a lot of people listening, and I want to really to dive into things. And so the way we do this on every show, let me grab this. It's heavy. I'm going to pass this to you. This is Thor's hammer.
Ooh,
so go ahead and take that and smash for me some kind of marketing myth or sales myth, or just things you're seeing, misconceptions, maybe even around the emotional intelligence side that just drive you crazy. You want to set the record straight once and for all.
Well, you know what I'm going to pick.
I know what you're going to pick.
Curiosity killed the cat. You got to slam that one. That one drives me crazy. Smash. Because
Curiosity didn't kill the cat?
curiosity did not kill the cat.
Oh,
And
snap.
that's made up by parents who didn't want to follow their kids around to go get messing up into different areas of their house and get into trouble. But curiosity is what saved the company. And if we don't have curiosity, we're not going to have innovation. We're not going to have engagement. We're not going to have motivation. We're not going to have anything, because it's the spark to everything. So I'm just super passionate about curiosity. So when you hear that, people shouldn't ask questions, that everybody in agreement's a good thing, that is not correct. That means you have status quo thinking, and I want to shatter that as well.
Okay. So curiosity didn't kill the cat. That was just people trying to keep you following the rules, like stay between the lines, stay inside the box.
Boring like me.
Yeah. And so creativity comes from that then.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Interesting. So if you're having trouble being creative, maybe you need to look at your curiosity first.
Definitely. Curiosity. Okay. I give a talk about some of the different things that companies are trying to do. They're trying to improve creativity. They're trying to improve innovation, engagement, motivation, drive, all those things. Think of them like you're baking a cake, that those are the ingredients. Okay.
I hear that's hard though. I hear if you mess up one ingredient, the cake doesn't work. Well,
in a cake, there's a lot of ingredients and you put them together, right? Hopefully you'll put them all in there. But you would mix them together, you put them in a pan, and you put them in the oven. So what would happen? Well, if you don't turn on the oven, you get goo, right? You don't get. And that's what's happening in the workplace. The cake is productivity, right? They want to improve all the bottom line and all that. That's the cake. The ingredients are motivation, drive, innovation, engagement. All these things are mixing together, but nobody's turning on the oven. The oven, the spark, is curiosity.
Interesting. So you can have all these really cool things in one place, but you still have goo. You still have goop.
Yes, still have goop.
Jeez. And so tell us how to identify this. How do we know if we're in a gloop factory?
Well, I'm going to tell you what I discovered is what we're trying to do here is get people more curious, right? So if you want to find out if you're curious or not, you can take an assessment to tell you, are you curious? How curious? But that doesn't tell you much. It just tells you if you're high or low curiosity. And we've had like the big 5 factors on openness for experience, for example, is a personality assessment that'll tell you that. But that's fine, but it doesn't tell me what's stopping me from being curious. And so that's what I wanted to find out. And I researched it for years, worked with a lot of psychometric statisticians and a lot of specialists, and came up with a way to determine the things that keep you from being curious. And found 4 factors keep people from being curious. And so if you can work on those things, then you can develop your sense of curiosity that we've had basically squelched.
Yeah, I could see that. School, life just tells you stop being curious. So,
well, Ken Robinson has a great, Sir Ken Robinson has his TED Talk, and so does George Land has a great talk. And they both talk about how some things we're educated out of some of this stuff, right? Yeah. You get into school, teachers have to teach, maybe science and math are higher on their chart. Maybe they don't have time. They have to teach to the test. I mean, there is some of that some of the creativity, some of the curiosity, some of the things that we naturally have gets pushed aside so that we can get higher and higher degrees that maybe don't even focus on the things that we really need to be truly innovative.
And now somehow you've gotten your doctorate and you're still curious. So they didn't beat you.
They tried.
They tried.
Well, I was always curious. And in fact, I wasn't one of those people who really even wanted a PhD. I just wanted to see how hard it would be.
Really? Yeah. Was it hard?
Yeah, it was. But it wasn't as hard as I thought it would be. But it was hard. You know what it was? It was discipline and it's tenacity to be able to write 200 pages or whatever it is you have to do, and to go through all the rules and to follow the guidelines. I think that everything is only as big as you blow it up in your mind, and I worked as a doctoral chair, and I'd help people get through their doctoral process. And you just kind of tease them and say, how do you eat an elephant? You just eat it one bite at a time kind of thing, because it's challenging if you look at the big picture, but bit by bit, everything's a little bit easier.
I've heard that phrase before so many times that I decided to calculate it out at one point. And I looked up, it was like an African forest elephant.
Okay.
And it's roughly, like 10,000 pounds or whatnot, and you do the math. And then I was working with Christina to figure out, well, into ounces, right? Google helped with that. And then it's like, well, how many ounces can you eat at a time in a bite? And then how many times do you have to chew that, one bite at a time? How many bites do you have to, it's like 60 something thousand bites. So yeah, there's a lot to it, but hey, one at a time, it's not so bad.
That's right. But that's so funny that you'd look it up. See, you're curious. I love that.
Curious. Now, I want to get into these 4 as well. These 4 things that prevent us. Are some people just more naturally curious? So some people aren't. And then if you're just not curious, you'll never be more.
Yeah, we're all very curious. I mean, we're all born with the curiosity gene. The Max Planck Institute coined that phrase. But if you look at animals and the wildlife out there, birds won't just stay in one bush because they're going to run out of berries, right? So they have this natural curiosity that you get rewarded with dopamine when you have curiosity to make you go to the next bush, make you go to the next thing. And so we all have it. Some of us have different personality types, as anybody who's taken a Myers-Briggs test or any of these kind of tests, if whether you believe in that one or any other one, a lot of them show your preferences for certain things are there at birth, whether you're introvert, extrovert, that type of thing.
Right.
Some of us had more of this kind of thing than another, but we're all held back by these 4 things, and just in different, depending on which ones we're looking at. For example, let me just say what the 4 are.
Yeah.
They're fear. Assumptions would be the voice in your head. Technology and environment. So if you have an environment like Steve Wozniak, where your dad's bringing home all these resistors and says, here, let me show you how this works. This is the electricity. This needs to go to this for this and that. Okay, so he's helping him explore his curiosity. His environment's actually beneficial to him.
Right.
Some people have, Elon Musk talks about his family being a detrimental, and he did I'll show you kind of thing in spite of his parents.
Right.
So environment can be different in so many respects, in a positive, negative, and, different kinds of ways. But it is an impactor one way or another. And so that was one of the things that I looked at, because environment could be your teacher, your family, your friends, your coworkers, your boss, your past boss, or social media. You think of how many things that we go along with just to get along, right?
Right.
So environment was a huge one. And I know I started at the end, but
real quick on environment, I was just chatting with someone on the team on an earlier episode, and anyone who's like following us linearly will have heard this. Daniel Cordell on my team, he said he grew up, his parents let him drop out sophomore year because he was helping his dad with Adobe and doing creative design, and his parents created that kind of environment for him too, where his dad was like, yeah, you don't need that either. Let's go learn some more stuff. And he was, he was launched, and now he's trying to do the same kind of thing for his kids, where he's creating that kind of different environment. Yeah.
I think for my generation, not as much as newer generations would be more apt to do that. But I think that we're going to see more bite-sized pieces, elephant bites of things instead of the whole elephant in our education system. So I think environment has a huge impact for me. My family, everybody was sports fanatics, and I didn't like sports very much. And so I'm like, well, what I like seemed really kind of stupid to everybody else, right? And so then you go, well, I thought business was kind of interesting, but I don't, because I'm supposed to like sports or whatever it is. You know how you are. You're as a kid, you're very influenced by your siblings. And so there's all these things that as you get older, you go, well, I don't have to listen to what my silly brother said, or my teacher who didn't know me very well, or what, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you get older and you just go, okay, I got it. I see these things have held me back. Now I can create an action plan. So that's your environment. But let's, it's really FATE is the acronym to make it easier to remember. So let's start with fear.
FATE. Oh, I like that.
Yeah. So fear, assumptions, technology, and environment. And we already hit on environment. So let's go to FATE. Fear. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Fear is pretty what I expected right off the bat, because I put a link into LinkedIn, a thread about, what is it that's keeping you back from being curious, to people on my network. And since I've got nearly 30,000 people, you get all kinds of responses.
Wow.
It was great to see what people respond, because a lot of it came up as fear. Nobody wants to look stupid. Nobody wants to come prepared. No, you're going to be in a meeting, you're looking around and you're thinking, I want to ask that, but I don't want to be the only idiot in here who asked that question. We've all done it.
Yeah.
You're just going, well, I don't know. Casey, why don't you ask?
That's a stupid idea, Casey.
Casey to look stupid, right?
That's a dumb idea, Casey. Like, oh, okay.
Right. So we all have been there. And then in social media, you post something, and somebody says something mean, there's so many things that'll make you shut down.
Right.
And I had a leader look me in the eye and say, I pretend I didn't hear that. Well, what, that means you don't want me to tell you the truth. You don't want me to ask questions. You don't want me to be honest. Whatever it is, you don't want any conversation. And I've had, I've had leaders who look at people and say, don't come to me with problems unless you have solutions. Don't. And you hear don't enough, you're going to get a lot of don't. Nobody's going to do it. Right. And I give talks often. I talk about a social experiment where they looked at status quo thinking, and a lot of it is for fear of looking different than everybody else. And what they did was I don't know if you've seen this experiment, but they took a woman to a doctor's office. It was an eye doctor. And she thought she was getting her eyes examined, but it really was a social experiment. So everybody around her were actors.
Okay.
She didn't know it. And so every once in a while, a bell would ding, and then everybody would stand up and sit down, and they didn't tell her why. And she
no, they didn't tell her?
No, she just looks around, and everybody's standing up, sitting down. And so after a few times, she stands up and she sits down with everybody as they ring the bell. Wow. They wanted to see if she would go along with social learning.
How many dings did it take?
Just a few. It wasn't many. And so after a while, I thought, well, let's see what happens if we take all the actors out of the room and she's just alone in the room.
Oh my gosh.
So they call people back like they're getting their eyes examined. Everybody walks out. And eventually she's the only one left. They ring the bell. What do you think she does? She gets up and she sits down, right? Because it's social learning. Everybody's doing it. I'm going to do it. I don't care. So then let's bring people in who weren't actors just to see what impact that'll have on them.
Right.
Bring in people. That first guy sits down next to her. The bell rings. She gets up and sits down, and he looks at her. And he goes, why'd you do that? And she goes, everybody else was doing it. I thought I was supposed to. So what do you think happens when the next bell rings?
Does he do it?
Yeah. And then everybody else that comes in, they get up and they sit down. Because everybody is just getting up and sitting down with the bell out there. That's status behavior.
Yeah.
And when we're in meetings, that's what we're getting in the workplace. Nobody's asking why we're standing up and sitting down. The bell rang. Time to do it.
Yeah.
Time to make the donuts. That was it.
Time to make the donuts.
And when I was younger, you just do it. That's it.
Right. And so when you're doing that, and you don't want to not do that and be the one looked at like, oh, who are you going counterculture here? Yeah. So fear. Should we go through the rest of these or should we talk about how to attack them?
Yeah. Well, let's go through them and then we'll attack them.
Okay, cool.
Let's say assumptions are the next.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. And so assumptions are the voice in your head. So let's say you constantly tell yourself, I'm not going to like that. That doesn't sound good. That's going to be a lot of work. I did that in the past. He just gave me more work and no pay. I mean, think of the things you tell yourself that shut you down. I mean, it happens all the time.
For sure.
In assumptions, the voice in your head, I've seen a psychological experiment where you hold a glass of water and you just, I do this with a crowd and I'll say, so how heavy is this? And people will yell out, I don't know, 12 ounces, 7 ounces, whatever they yell at. And you'll say, well, if I hold it for a minute, the weight doesn't matter, right?
Right.
But if I hold it for an hour, then my arm starts to get tired. If I hold it all day, my arm starts to feel paralyzed.
Right.
So that's how our thoughts are in our head. That, you get a fleeting thought, no big deal. After about an hour, you're starting to, it's bothering you. You hold on to it for a long time, then you're paralyzed by it, right? So you got to put the water down. You got to put these thoughts down, but you have to recognize them. So
it can get crushing, right? After too long of those thoughts, you can't move.
Right. Yeah. It's a huge problem for so many people. So that's the assumptions part. And then technology, we talked a little bit about like Steve Wozniak of how he was, very much influenced by his environment and technology. So some of these things are overlapping, but I think of technology. I often think of my mom with technology, just her generation. Do not give your parents all the Apple
Right.
Technology out there, you become tech support for sure, right? I mean, lessons in patience. Watch them put their email address in on the Apple TV remote. You'll be there forever.
Yeah, my dad, if he's actually listening to this, you got to get rid of that AOL address. It's not working. You got email all the way.
I like AOL. You should keep it. No, I mean, they were good, for this time. And I think a lot of older people feel like they're going to break things. They think that I don't want to wreck this. I'm going to destroy something if I move this, or everything seems very fragile. So they don't have that intense desire to figure out how things work because it's just something that's not from their time frame, right? But we have a lot of people who are on the other end of that spectrum who really don't understand how your Echo device came up with that calculation because they don't know the math behind whatever it is, right? And they could have been the next mathematical genius out there had you given them much more foundation, but they've totally just kind of relied on this stuff and don't know that. Right. So I think we could under and overutilize technology, which will inhibit us in multiple ways.
Right. If it's just sort of, we're just taking it at face value and it's serving up everything, then what's there to wonder about?
Right. And
for sure.
If it answers your questions without giving you any pause to wonder and explore, if it's too simple sometimes, there's a desire. It's like putting yourself on a mountaintop instead of hiking to the top. Is it as rewarding?
Speaking my language. I love mountains.
I love mountains.
Right. Just getting dropped via helicopter at the top of a peak.
Yeah. Would you rather have that or a hike out of the Grand Canyon and get there that way?
Yeah. I mean, you're going to get out of the helicopter and be like, it's cold. And let me get back in. Let's go get a dinner. Like you didn't really earn it, so you don't really enjoy it. But if you've been below tree line for hours wondering, is this going to, what's going on? And you see it, you're like, okay.
The discovery. And that's what we had. We had that desire as kids. And so we've had a lot of this change throughout our years. I mean, at age 5, we peak, and then the rest of the time we've lost so much. And it's a lot of due to these things that we're talking about.
Where do you see the tech being the most curiosity killing? Like, is there a particular kind of thing we should just put down?
A lot of people don't feel comfortable exploring, and so they don't look into other technology, or they've just learned the last version and they're like, do I really wanted to go through that again? So they think they don't have time sometimes, or they, there's just a combination of things. I think a lot of it depends on what their generation, what they grew up with it, if they feel afraid of it, or if they're younger and they think, well, why do I need to bother? It already does it for me. There's so many aspects to it.
Yeah.
So I think having, I've seen Simon Sinek talk about, leave your phones outside the meetings and do certain, have low tech days, high tech days, different things. I think you need to explore. I've had, so many people who are experts on my show talk about different, aspects of curiosity and motivation and drive, and it all ties into all this. And to get really innovative companies, you have to have foundational aspects as well.
Right. The study, I don't even know if it relates, but just it was fascinating to me on the cell phones was leaving them on a table reduced eye contact by some double-digit percentage, something ridiculous like 40% or something.
Well, because we're just always looking,
know. And even if you turned the cell phone off and you knew it was off, but it was on the table, still reduced eye contact and conversation. So like I've got a group that I meet with, and I always tell people, okay, right, phones off the table, please, because I might even be guilty. I'll be looking at your phone, or we'll all be looking at our phones instead of looking at each other.
Well, I agree. And I think in Simon's talk, he was saying, leave them outside the door, go into the meeting, have some real time. One of the places that my husband and I go for dinner, they don't let you have phones, and you have to actually talk,
They don't let you have phones?
No, it's a private club that we joined, and you can't even use your phone there.
Oh, I like that.
I kind of like it once in a while. You look around and go, hey, people are talking to each other. That's kind of novel.
It's like, wow. You don't have a table with like, all the kids are on iPads and the parents are on their cell phones. You're like, why are you guys even out to dinner? Like, what's going on?
Nothing. It's great. Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, okay. So the fates are here. How do we...
What do we do with it?
Put them in check. Yeah.
Right. Well, okay. So now we know, let's say we want to deal with fear. And actually what people do is they take the Curiosity Code Index, which is the assessment I created, and it's 36 questions. They give them 9 answers for each of the 4 areas of just different aspects of fear, assumptions, technology, and environment. Okay. So you've got your results. It's not unlike—
Is there a web address that we can go to do
it's
that?
curiositycode.com.
Sick.
Or you can go to drdianehamilton.com, and the curiosity stuff's all at the top there.
Okay. We'll put links in the show notes for this too, but that's great. Okay. So there's this
it's
quiz.
curiosity.com, and you take it, and it's similar to taking like an emotional intelligence or a Myers-Briggs or a DISC test, and it gives you, 28 pages or, what the PDF it gives you. And it'll give you all your results for all these different areas. And at the end of each section of fear, assumptions, technology, environment, you would create sort of an action plan, kind of a SWOT analysis, a personal SWOT based on your results. Okay, so these are my issues. This is how I'm going to overcome them. This is how I'm going to make it measurable. And these are potential threats and how I'm going to overcome them. And so you develop this whole plan. Now that's if you took it online. You could do it that way right now. If you worked with your organization, organizations are taking this as, we're having HR people give it or consultants give it. So on my site, consultants and HR professionals are becoming certified to give it within organizations. Yeah, and they get 5 hours of SHRM certification credit. So it's a really great for everybody. And when they give it, there's a couple exercises they do. In the work setting, we add an exercise that's kind of an action plan for leadership based on what we've learned in our personal action plan. And so let's say for fear, we're going to work on, this fear of maybe we feel we're going to look stupid if we talk about anything or if we ask questions or whatever our situation is. So what we have people do is come up with suggested ways that you think you could get over this and recommend this to leadership. I would like to present about XYZ idea at a meeting, but I get to pick the topic at first, so I know I'm comfortable with it. And you just baby step into where you feel comfortable.
So it gives you that sort of like ideas on what to do?
Right. It'll give you an idea, but then you take it from there. And we work with leaders to have them realize that it takes them being vulnerable to show that they're willing to do this too. That no question's a dumb question. They're going to show you by asking dumb questions that they would normally not ask, because we all have that imposter syndrome, right?
Yeah.
Oh, everybody thinks I'm so smart. I better pretend I'm super smart and not answer something.
Especially if you write a book, then you're supposed to know everything.
Yeah, I'm supposed to know everything about it.
You are. But it sounds like you do kind of know everything. So.
I don't know about that. But if you ask me a question, the smart thing for me to do if I don't know the answer is, hey, that's a good question. I don't know the answer.
Yeah.
When I find out, I'm going to tell you,
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we're taught in sales. You're teaching marketing, sales, those kinds of things. That's what we're taught. And I was in sales for decades. I taught marketing, I taught all the things that, we know these things, but we don't really do them sometimes.
Right.
And we need to do that. So for fear, and we do the same thing with assumptions. If we've told ourselves that we're not going to like something for XYZ reason, and it's going to be too hard, and, we need to come up with different things that we can do that we thought we wouldn't like. Maybe just read a different section of the newspaper every day. I thought I wouldn't like business. I thought I wouldn't like sales. I thought I wouldn't like whatever it is, that we've told ourselves. Take a different direction to work. Look for different things. Keep your mind open to different ways of doing things.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sometimes it's just asking simple questions of people that will bring about new ways of viewing things, because we all look at things from our own unique perception, our perspective. And then my next book's on perception, so that ties into a lot of this curiosity stuff.
Yeah.
And if we develop our emotional intelligence, which is what I wrote my dissertation on, is emotional intelligence, and if we develop our empathy, which is a big part of emotional intelligence, we are able to look at things from different perspectives. And from an empathizing perspective means I'm able to put myself in Casey's shoes and go, okay, that's how he sees that.
Right.
I think that helps us with a lot of the assumptions we make, that maybe he wouldn't see it that way. Maybe I could look at it that way. And, there's all these different things that we can do. And then as far as technology, like we mentioned a few already, we have days where you don't use as much technology. We have days where you use more. What can we learn that we haven't learned? What are we messing with that we're spending too much time? How can we free up some time to learn different technologies and have kind of these debates? And that's what we do when we create these action plans, is spell out all these things that are bothering and fix them. And that's what I was really trying to do, is fix everything and not just identify, well, I have high curiosity. That's great. Well, that doesn't tell me anything.
Right.
What can I do about that? If it's going to be higher, could I make it, how can I make it higher? So that's really important for technology. And for environment, really it's more recognizing which things, so my parents saying that I should be a lawyer my whole life is why I felt like I had to go this way. Or when I'd ask them about this, they'd say, I don't have time, go sit down. Or, I mean, there's so many aspects of environment that we let other people kind of influence us to the point where we want to be liked. My friends like to do that, so I do that.
Right.
I don't really like to do that. And you have to recognize there's some stuff you might like. In my family, it was like, you like to do that, and then they make you feel bad,
Right. Yeah.
I go, I like to go rock climbing. They go, oh, you don't play tennis? Whatever it was, you're supposed to do this one thing, not this one thing. And so you kind of go, oh, well, I guess that's dumb. Okay, I won't do that when you're young.
You don't get the acceptance. You don't get that connection.
You don't get that. No, because that wasn't what everybody else did.
Right.
And so as I got older, I'm thinking, well, I don't like tennis.
No.
I want to climb that rock wall.
Right.
Climb that rock wall. And so, you just find the things that you like, and you learn to recognize that this is why I felt uncomfortable doing this, because I had that voice from all this other experiences.
That's cool. This thing can help you at least identify that some of that garbage is going on inside your brain.
I think a lot of people don't recognize a lot of it.
Sure. I mean, even right now, I was going to ask you, if you get a perfect score on your assessment, what do you do? Like,
not anywhere close to that.
I'm the best. Like, have you taken it? Like,
oh yeah.
And it tells you areas that you need to work on as well. You're not like the master.
Some of it is what held you back as children, and and so it's not just today. It's an all across the board thing, and so some of that stuff is recognition, and I've not seen a perfect score.
Okay, well, maybe I'll let you know if I get there.
I'll be honest. You got to be honest when you take it.
Oh, I will be. Yeah. No fear there. No fear. Hashtag overshare. Let's just overshare with millions of people, shall we?
Hashtag overshare. I love it.
Right, for sure. Okay, so this is cool. We've got the sense, the fates are out there. They're behind the scenes, kind of just thwarting the fun. We're the curiosity, the fun, that sort of built in the gene. We want to just express that, and we've got to watch out for these things that are behind the scenes.
That's right. And I think that we have to recognize that we always had that desire to express it, and we've just got to let it go. And when I researched this, I looked at some of the research in curiosity and motivation and drive, and it all kind of ties into what we know to some extent. I've had Francesca Gino from Harvard on my show, who's written a great HBR article about curiosity. Wow. And
what's it called?
I can't remember the name of the title, but if you look up Francesca Gino, she did a great article from HBR.
Okay.
And it's one of just many people who, have written many articles, and people who have been on the show who have talked about creativity and curiosity and all that, of how this is so vital to us, of what we need to be developing. And if we know we've lost this in our childhood, I mean, it's just a really, it's such a common thing that people talk about curiosity, that when I started to write about this, and I was able to get Steve Forbes to write, his thing.
Wow.
He
wrote the foreword?
Steve Forbes, he didn't write the foreword. He wrote a blurb for the front.
Oh, he wrote a blurb. Wow.
Yeah, the foreword was actually Keith Kroc, who's now undersecretary in Washington. He was the chairman, and he's the billionaire behind DocuSign. He's like the most unbelievable.
Wow.
Actually, I just spent this weekend honoring him for Harvard in San Francisco for Leader of the Year. So he wrote the foreword, and I've had people like Vern Harnish, and just unbelievable people. Ken Fisher, just big names, have all written great reviews of the book, because this sounds like it's something that should have been written, and yet nobody really has touched on this. They've talked on motivation and drive, like Daniel Pink's book, Drive. It was great. I loved it. Loved his talk. Loved Daniel Pink. A lot of what he's talking about, this is like the spark before it. How we get to that intrinsic motivation and drive. And Same thing with I'm sorry, Simon Sinek's work, finding your why. It's that same, you have to spark that desire. And I think probably the most important is Carol Dweck's work, of mindset, if you have a fixed or an open mindset. And, when she looked at kids that had that closed mindset, they just thought no more work's going to give them any extra benefit, and they just didn't try any harder.
Right.
So I think we have to have this open mindset. We have to work on this drive and this finding our why, but it all starts with this curiosity, this spark, turning on the oven so we don't get goo.
Right. And if you haven't tried anything, and maybe you haven't done your why yet, you haven't experienced it, you haven't, as cool as that TED Talk is, it's a lot harder to try to figure out what your why is. Like when you're sort of like, I've spent years and then gotten really, really, really close, I think, to it. But it's not just a little easy. Oh, yeah. Great. Find my why. Click this button and give Amazon $20 and you'll know your why.
It's a questioning process.
Yeah.
And that means that requires curiosity.
Yeah.
And so when I asked Francesca Gino, what comes first, curiosity or this, curiosity or that, she says curiosity comes first. And I ask anybody who's a creativity expert, they say the same thing. It doesn't matter who I've had on my show, whatever the thing is that there's their level of expertise. I ask them what comes first and they all say curiosity, and so it's really so critical. And right now everybody's trying to be innovative. Everybody wants to be the next Uber. Everyone wants to
innovative just seems like such a corporate word.
Right. But that's, that everybody wants to be relevant too. If they're consultants, they don't want to keep giving disc. They don't want to keep giving, and nothing wrong with this, but everybody's kind of done this, and we know it helps.
Can we talk about those for a second? Cause I used to be I love those. And I started by, Strength Finder. Was big into Strength Finder.
I wrote about both of those in one of my books.
Oh, did you? Okay. And my, the first time I took it, because they changed on me, but the first time I took it, number one was woo. And until then, I had no idea. I just thought, oh, I kind of like going to these networking events, but I kind of need a vodka to get really going. But I was like, oh, woo, interesting. So I let that sort of go, and it was great. Later on, they changed it on me, and they got rid of my woo, and they
got rid of your woo.
They put something else there, and I was like, no, bring it back. But what's your take on these different tests? Because just sort of the background for me was Strength Finder, and then I used to disc everyone I met.
It's great. I love disc.
It's great in sales, and then really gotten into Colby after that. Really big fan of Colby. So what's your take on all that universe of?
I wrote a book called It's Not You, It's Your Personality.
Yeah?
Yeah, a long time ago. And
That's
it was
awesome.
with my daughter. We wrote it together. And so I wrote some of it, and then she put it into young people irreverent speak, because my agent at the time thought it should be like Skinny Bitch, where it was kind of sarcastic.
Really?
It was meant for very young adults at that point. But what it was to explain all the different personality assessments and why you kind of need to know this stuff and what it's trying to tell you.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And so I love it all. I mean, I'm a DI. I know I'm an EST.
You're a DI. I'm a DI too. That's why I can hang out with you. Yeah.
We can. So, I know, what we are, and I think that's what was really interesting to me is one of the first ones I had become certified in after getting certified in emotional intelligence. I became qualified to give the Myers-Briggs assessment. And some people don't really like that one, but I still think it was very good for discovering what you are not. You know what I mean? If you're only looking at things from your own perspective, and we're back to empathy again with emotional intelligence.
Sure.
You go, I remember they took us and they put us in a room, and like all the T's were on one side and the F's were on another side. So if anybody doesn't know the Myers-Briggs, it's a dichotomy of personality types. And so you're either a thinker or a feeler, for example. So you make your decisions based on facts and figures, or you make them based on your values, basically. So the people who were high T's went on one side of the room, and the people who were high F's went on the other side of the room.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember they were talking about, to the F's, they said to everybody, they said, well, how many of you really appreciate if somebody bakes you cookies and brings them to you, and and all the F's are just like, and all the T's were looking at each other, why do you want cookies? We couldn't, we just didn't want cookies. We couldn't figure that out.
Right.
And then you go, oh, okay. So now it helps me to know that if I'm with an F, if I bring them cookies, it means so much to them.
Right.
But it didn't mean anything to me, but I have to act like it means a lot to me if somebody brings me cookies if they're an F, because it means so much to them.
Right.
So, I think you get that with the extrovert introvert a lot. That's why Susan Cain's book was so huge, because we got to look at what the importance was of knowing the extrovert versus introvert thing. You hear everybody knows extroverts like me, they never shut up, right? But they don't know the introvert is, that kills them. And so you don't want to be around that all the time. It drains them. And they have so many things that they bring, but then the extrovert's talking all over them and they can't say anything. So, I think a lot of that is what I loved about taking the personality assessments. It's just learning what I am not and what you are, and why it's important what you are. Because when we put people on teams, you give them Legos, right? In a team. Yeah. And if the team were all the same people, they'd build the most boring house ever, right?
True.
But you give them Legos and a team of somebody different, you get this castle, the drawbridge, and
Totally.
So that's what you want in the workplace, right?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Have you heard of? So, are you familiar with Kolbe or kind of?
Yeah, I've never been certified in that though.
I actually went and got certified. I was so into it. But what was interesting to me about it is so far it doesn't change on you.
Well, that's like Myers-Briggs. It doesn't ever change.
Myers-Briggs doesn't change. Okay. And the only thing I like the ones that have the number answers more so than the almost like Boolean one or the other with Myers-Briggs, because I think for me, I was like at least with the new 16 personalities, it kind of gives you the spectrum to show you.
Yeah.
But when I looked up the ENFP or whoever I was supposed to be, I saw this really happy-go-lucky, this girl on video who was like, and I'm kind of like that, but I think too a little bit too much to be just completely like that. And so I looked at one of my things, it was like 51% over here, like 55%.
Well, you're really near the middle like that.
Yeah.
What you're saying is there's a scale, there's a line, and you're right close to the middle.
Close to the middle.
You could kind of go one way or the other every time you take it because you're so close to the middle. And then you're looking at a different description of what your personality type is. If you looked at mine, my TF, I had 100% T, 0 F. So I'm not changing. I'm all the way.
You're a T. So I don't send you cookies.
Don't send me cookies. Don't want them. Okay.
No cookies.
No cookies. But I thought that was so funny. But
wow.
I do like presence, but I base all my decisions on facts and figures more than I do on my personal sense of what's, my moral decision kind of thing. I think I'm very logical is what that's telling me. And I think that when I'm around somebody who's really emotional, I have to be, okay, that's opposite. I got to think, you have to put yourself in that perception of, moving my empathy to understand that. And I think it was something that really fascinated me to look at all these personality types. And that's why I created this Curiosity Code Index, because I've been certified in all these different things. And that's why I'm creating my one for perception as well, because I think that we like to measure the unmeasurable.
I agree. Yeah.
Behavioral things that seem not quantitative, right?
Right.
And so
it's like order from the chaos.
It's order from chaos. Yeah. And it gives us, here I am. I could go over here. I could go over here. And this is what, this is a path now. And it helps us really visualize what we need to do to get better. And without that, we're just going, all over.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. That one thing you mentioned about the diverse team, Kolbe has an exercise to do with a group called the Glop Shop. And there's a video on you. Have you seen it or heard of it?
I'd have to see it.
You may have even seen it or some other practices bringing it in. But literally what happens is all of their Kolbes have been taken, and then you hand pick like 3 or 4 of those people, send them out of the room. And you tell everyone in the room that they're going to have those people come in, and they're going to have like 2 minutes to build a toy with this bag of things, an educational toy, and then they're going to have 1 minute to pitch it. And then the person leading the group actually starts telling people what's going to happen and what each particular person is going to do based on their Kolbe. Kind of predicts the future. And I had a chance to go out there and do the training, and Kathy Kolbe herself was actually doing that exercise, and she sent me out of the room. But I was like, I know, but I watched the video. Do you still want to? She's like, yeah, get out of here. So she sent me out of the room. But because there's 2 minutes, there's not enough time to like analyze. You just go with your instinct.
You gotta do what you can do.
And so when we came in, they told us the thing, and then they're like, go. I immediately find this little furry piece of green, like fur, like almost like leprechaun beard or something like that. I immediately pick it up. I hold it to my face like a beard, and then I put it on top of my head. The whole class starts laughing, and I thought it was because I was funny.
You would do, is it?
Exactly. I thought it was because I was funny. No. Maybe I was funny, but more importantly, Kathy had said, Casey will come in. He'll immediately see this green thing. He will pick it up and hold it to either his face or his head. And I literally did that.
That's great.
But to your point, it showed like a diverse group would actually do different things. Whereas if it's just all the same person, you're missing some strengths.
Well, that's the problem, though, is a lot of people try to get onto teams where everybody's the same, and then you end up with really boring products. But if you put everybody on a diverse team, then you got to deal with everybody's personality conflicts.
It's true.
So that's why all this is so important.
True.
When you're asking, should we give this? Should we give? That's why we should give these, because then you understand not only what you are, which you hopefully know, understand what somebody else is, right?
Right.
And how that's different from what you are. And so that's what I think is the true value in giving those. So I have DISC on my site. I have other assessments on my site, emotional intelligence on my site. I think those are really important, especially if you've never done them, right? But I think what my CCI is completely different. It's not putting you into a box. It's not saying or that type or this type or this type. They're saying, here's 36 issues. Here's where you can improve.
Yeah, actionable. So it sounds like there's like to-dos. That's cool.
And it's like, this is what you need to do if you want to be more engaged, innovative, productive at work, and it's a win-win for everybody. Because right now, think about if you got 50% of the jobs that are going to be going, here, AI, little guy over here is going to do it for you, right? Well, where can I go? Well, wouldn't it be nice to go somewhere where I'm engaged? Well, because right now, Gallup tells us 500 billion is being lost because nobody's engaged, right? We have less than a third of the workplace engaged. Well, now we can find out, this is where we could put people because they're interested in this and they've never looked at this before. And they found this is much more what makes them excited to go to work every day.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's crazy. Who are you? How did you become this sage of all things emotional intelligence and curiosity and
who am I?
Take us back, like little Diane days. Did you always know you're going to be a PhD in curiosity?
From day one. Had no idea. I was kind of like a firstborn because my sister was 5 years older and my brother was 8.5 years older. So I kind of was left on my own to do and discover because I didn't really have a close sibling to play with,
Sure.
And so my father was born legally blind, basically was blind, and my mom was a housewife. Nobody worked. It was a really strange household. So
how does that work?
It was really strange. Well, there was a Hamilton shoe company in St. Louis. And so the Hamiltons were wealthy enough that they could take care of my father. So he didn't have to work. And so he didn't work, but he was very motivated and driven to do a lot of weird things. Like he would write books and poetry and kind of that kind of stuff.
Well, shout out to the Hamiltons. They created the environment. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so he was pretty impressive for somebody who really was basically blind, and he'd still play golf and he would ride horses with me. He would do stuff. He wasn't just, idle. But what I did get from him was his multitasking ability to do a lot of things at once. Like he would have a book for the blind playing on the record, and then he would have the newspaper he'd try to read up close to his face, and he'd have the sports on the television station. And he'd have like 7 things going all at once.
Wow.
So I tend to do a little of that.
Do you?
Yeah.
Can you handle like all the different?
I can do a lot of. You should see how many buttons are open on my computer right now.
I bet. You have like 1,000 tabs.
A lot. And I jump back and forth.
Sure.
I work a lot because I work for a bunch of different schools. But that's kind of my background of my family. We were very fortunate that we could live that way. But I never had that influence of people who really were business people because the Hamiltons all lived in St. Louis and I lived in Arizona. So I basically was raised with none of that to see. And but I always had this sense that I liked business. And when I was little, my mother would give me her old checkbooks, and I just thought that was the coolest thing. You could write fake checks, and it's a wonder I didn't become a forger, because I love that.
I was going to say, it's a wonder.
Yeah.
Do you ever use those, see if they worked at the store?
I've cashed a few. I'm kind of bummed. But, I had Diane's Diner as a kid. I created a cook. I would cook lunch for people in a business kind of setting, and I always wanted to
like a real one, or is it like a fake one?
That's what I called it. And I made 3 things. I think tuna sandwich and a maybe soup and peanut butter or something. Nothing too exciting.
Nice.
Yeah. That what can you do when you're 8 or whatever I was, and
everything really when you're 8, right? No one's told you no enough.
Right. I didn't get told no a lot, so I pretty much did. And I think a lot of influence for me environmentally was a teacher I had in grade school.
Okay.
About 7th and 8th grade, both. I had a great algebra teacher. This guy was crazy, man. I loved him. Actually, I dedicated my last book, if you see, to Mr. Tate. That's who it was.
Really?
He would climb up on the chalkboard and yell at the chalkboard. You'd have an algebraic problem on there, and he'd be yelling at a number saying, you get off there. And he'd scream at the board to get kids interested in math. And it was the coolest thing ever.
Agreed. You're so used to just falling asleep on your elbow.
Especially algebra, right? He'd get the trash can on his head, and he'd go sit in the closet, and he'd talk from the closet. He was just the greatest guy ever.
Oh, and man.
Love algebra to the point that it got me, just kind of excited about learning, I think. And there was just no rules to how he taught, which was fun. And he inspired me quite a bit. And later, I just had a lot of great mentors and people who would say, "Hey, you'd be great at this," or "You'd be good at," And it led me into being a pharmaceutical rep I worked for AstraZeneca for 20 years almost.
Wait, you went to school? Did you go to school for business?
I went to school for business. I'm one of those people, I knew it was going to be business from day one, never changed my major. I graduated high school in 3 years, and then I got into college. I went right through. I did it all at night because I was working.
Oh, no kidding.
Right out, and then I went, but later my company paid for my master's, and then later I just thought, well, that was fun. I'll just see how hard it is to do my doctorate. Did that, wrote my dissertation on emotional intelligence, and I fell into that kind of funny because I wanted to do it on sales because I knew sales from being in pharmaceuticals and everything, and I was in real estate.
You did that before the disseration?
Right, yeah.
I was working for AstraZeneca and...
Yeah, and so
wow.
I left AstraZeneca before I got my doctorate. And
what was that like, though, being a pharma rep? Because I think we hear a lot about that. Was it tough?
I liked AstraZeneca. I just didn't like being a pharmaceutical rep.
Yeah.
They were a great company. I just don't like to drive. I'm a very administrative, in front of the computer kind of person, Sure. So I get so excited if I had to do my expense reports, and everybody think I was nuts, They're like, what?
Wow, you're a good friend to have. Tell you what, I'll do the drive for you.
Right.
Here's my expense report. We're even. I
didn't mind the sales, though. I like the sales part. So I ended up being an inside salesperson later in pharmacy.
Yeah.
Mortgages. I went into mortgages and real estate and different things after that. But that is when later I went for my dissertation. I went to study sales, actually. I thought I'd write about sales, but I wanted to find out what impacted sales.
Yeah.
I had this really jerk of a professor. I had him only for one class for one day. I talked to him on the phone. And I dropped him immediately because he was nuts. You're like,
peace, I'm out.
He was awful. He was like the worst guy because I got on the phone with him and he goes, "Welcome to the cave." And he goes, "I'm going to eat you up like Jell-O pudding. This is going to be the worst class. You're never going to get through. It's going to be horrible." And I'm like, "Who are you?" And so he had this class that you had to pick what you were going to write about, right? And so he asked me what I was going to write about. I said, well, I thought I might write about sales, and I don't know how I put it, but he misunderstood me and said, "Oh, emotional intelligence and impact on sales. That's a great idea." I'm like, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
What's that?
What he said.
Whatever. Yeah, that was it. So I went and looked at it. I dropped him within 5 minutes of the phone call because of how crazy he was. And then I looked it up. I'm like, yeah, that would be great. And that ended that. And so I wish I remember what that guy's name was. I almost want to thank him for being crazy and helping me, but I can't remember his name.
Now you've had crazy teachers, Mr. Tate, shout out. But this guy was crazy too, but just not he wasn't on your side kind of thing.
He's just you know what? He's the kind of, I've had teachers, they'll do this to me. They'll go, yeah, you just did that too fast. You need to slow down and take some time to turn it in. So I'll do that. What I'll do is I'll do it just as fast, but then I'll hold it over off to the side for a couple weeks, and then I'll turn it in, and they'll go, oh, how much better that was. He's one of those kind of guys, you know, that you have to work on his kind of speed. Or
I spent weeks on this.
Yeah. And you go, see, if you just listen to me, that's exactly what you need to do. And so
sounds like new math, but anyways.
Yeah. So, I had one teacher who I talked so much in class in college that he said, the class ends in 2 weeks. You have an A, please don't come back.
Oh, I wish I had that. That sounds great.
So I've had a lot of teachers that have influenced me in some way or another.
Right. So the dissertation was on sales and emotional intelligence?
It was the relationship between sales performance and emotional intelligence in mortgage sales profession.
It was like 200 pages or so?
It's a lot of work. It was interesting. I mean, you got to survey all these people and and then it taught me a lot. So I ended up being a doctoral chair later because I've taught more than 1,000 business courses online. Wow. So I still teach right now. I mean, I teach all the time.
Where at?
A lot of different schools. I was the MBA program chair at the Forbes School of Business. I still teach with them as associate professor. I teach at Grand Canyon University, at Thomas Edison. I teach at Embry-Riddle, Grantham, Baker. I teach at a lot of different universities and University of Advancing Technology. I mean, there's so many of them. And I think that it's really interesting to teach for different universities and different topics because I learned so much. Right. So I'm curious because what I do for a living is just kind of learn from my education and my teaching and learn from my radio show because I've interviewed close to 1,000 people on my radio show. Totally. And so all of these people, all of it's like my dad thing where you've got these 7 things going on in your head during the day. But I take what I learn and then I share it and I write books and I speak and I consult. And so I'm just a curious person and I want to share it. That's kind of what I do for a living.
Yeah, that curiosity is like the first half. Sharing it really kind of brings it full circle, sounds like.
It really does. I mean, it's no fun to keep it all to yourself. You got to kind of figure out, oh, look what I mean, people too often have to reinvent the wheel because people are in these silos holding on to information. That doesn't do anybody any good.
No, not at all. So back to that dissertation, because people would hate on me if I didn't address it. You know, so can you summarize the 200 pages and years of work into any kind of interesting takeaways on the sales and emotional side?
You know, the
executive summary.
It's not anything too surprising. We know that emotional intelligence impacts sales. I think I picked Baron's EQI, which is a different assessment than some people use because it had stress tolerance in it. And I was looking at salespeople. And so I really wanted to see how much sales was impacted by certain things. It was a very, it's not a huge long-term study. It was typical of a dissertation. So, there's so many studies out there, but basically emotional intelligence helps in so many. We found its relationship to sales and leadership and everything else. So my data went along with what you would hope to see. Yeah. And I've had a lot of other people who I've helped get through their doctoral dissertation process who studied emotional intelligence as well. It's because they went to me for a mentor since I've done that. So I've seen a lot of great studies with emotional intelligence. I like the EQI for that particular thing, but I think, Goleman's been on my show. I've had Daniel Goleman's one of the biggest names in emotional intelligence, and it was great to have him on the show. So his work is just amazing. And so talking to him was one of the greatest people to have on.
Was it kind of a surreal moment just to be
It was,
and the godfather of emotional intelligence?
John Cotter, I've taught 1,000 courses probably with everybody cites John Cotter.
Right.
So I've had him. I've had Albert Bandura, second to Freud probably in psychology.
Wow. Yeah.
He's almost 94. Pretty soon.
Does he have an accent?
Invited me over. No, he's American. He's actually Canadian, I think, originally. He's almost 94. He's just the top. He's the guy that if you're like a bear, then you'd move one step closer to the bear, another step till you're eventually like sleeping with the bear kind of thing.
Right.
Okay. Because so he's very just the genius in psychology, And so I've had some of the greatest minds from Paul Ekman from the Lie to Me show on television to, just all these different people who have done, with facial expressions and different things that they've studied. And so I get to learn from everybody, and that's what I love all day long, just doing that.
I think podcasts are definitely a great tool for feeding curiosity. And I think, I try to tell everyone they should do a podcast, but I think the more curious of us, and what's interesting is it kind of is an ego check too, because you don't even talk the most, right? The people you're talking to are the ones that end up talking the most, and you just get to learn whether you're an extrovert or not. But just all the information coming from all the directions is amazing.
Yeah, that's why this is so interesting when I'm on other people's shows, because in my show, you probably don't believe me, but I don't talk.
Oh, no, I understand you completely because I don't either, right? Like totally. I mean, it's a little more conversational, but it's a lot of learning.
It is.
And then sharing with other people. Yeah. So question for you, this is it's an amazing journey. If you were to hop in a little time machine, you can take your pick, any time machine from Back to the Future, 1, 2, or 3. Any one of those time machines, the train or just the original DeLorean, and you go back in the future to you just getting out of school, or maybe whatever time frame, right? I'd say the beginning of your career, whenever that was. I know you're working throughout that, but if you could go back in time to maybe when you first really got started, what would you tell yourself? What kind of advice or wisdom would you impart to yourself?
It would be the DeLorean, probably, just so you know.
I agree. Yeah, it's a good one.
I used to ask people a lot, would they change anything and different things, and I'm with the thinking that I wouldn't change anything, that I'm happy with.
Well, you can't.
Let's say
it's against the rules. You can only tell yourself something.
You can only tell yourself something. So I'm not sorry the way it turned out, but I am, because some of the worst things that have happened to you actually teach you the best lessons. And
Agreed.
Some, you know what I mean? So
agreed. When it's going well, you don't even know why. It's going well.
Well, I think, though, I wish I knew that it's not so scary to try certain things. I think when you're young, I think you're so fearful of failure that you don't surround yourself and look for people to be mentors like you should. I think mentorship's huge. I'm on a board for a global mentoring network that I think is going to be the next phase of things. We're going to see a lot more mentoring coming up. And I think back in the 80s, when I'm thinking about what was going on back then, your options weren't like what they are now. And so you didn't even open up your mind to the potential you could create a unicorn company. I mean, it's not even a thought process, because there wasn't even computers. But I mean, I used to sell System 36s in the mid 80s.
Wow.
And that was, before that I was putting cards into computers. You know? It's been a while.
Punch cards.
We had punch cards. I had to program my calculus on punch cards at night, when I was going to school. And nobody had, we had Commodores eventually, but there was nothing, right? So I would look back, I would tell myself, wait till you see what's coming, I think, because just get on board early, get on board with whatever the next, social media, don't wait, just, embrace it, because change is exciting, I think. And open up your mind to some possibilities.
Not to put words in your mouth, but it sounds like you would kind of address some of the fate we talked about earlier. Exactly. And just kind of reassure yourself around that, to just be more curious, and don't be afraid to be curious.
I think it's just all those things that hold people back. And if you figure out what those are, and you say, okay, well, what's this is kind of boring if you just do this.
Yeah.
So much more. People regret what they don't do, not what they do. And, and if you could just think about that a little bit, what bell's ringing that you're standing up and sitting down for, and recognize that. And why?
Yeah. I like that. People, regret what they don't do as opposed to what they've done. Yeah, for sure. Oh, I should have done that. I should have done this. All those opportunities you could have, who knows what would have happened? You don't know. You never know what could have happened. Yeah. Fascinating.
Yeah.
So this is great. Are you going to be off to doing some climbing soon, or?
I actually was in a rock climbing contest a couple times in Arizona.
Really?
An outdoor one. Yeah, I usually climb. I hardly ever climb anymore, but I would rock climb in a gym, because I like to be in an indoor gym more than
indoor controlled.
aspect. But they talked to me, my buddies at the gym talked me into doing a couple outdoor rock climbing competitions. And I came in third, but there's only 5 in the group. I can't tell you that. So that means I came third from the bottom too. But there was only not too many older women do this. You know what I mean? So I'm like, I'll do it. And it's hard.
Was it like a circle, like you're inverted and you're hanging? And
I do that more in the gym than I would outside.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. It's fun though. No, I don't do a lot. I mean, I do a lot of bad things badly, I should say. I could play golf, I could rock climb, I could swim, I could do a lot of things, but I don't do anything really that well. But I like to try a lot of different things.
Well, I mean, I can relate to that though. It's that curiosity of trying something.
Right.
I recently tried one of those. There's like a boxing thing now with fitness, right? So I tried this title boxing thing, which was a complete ass kicker. And then I tried this 9-round thing, which was more of a circuit boxing. And I thought afterward, you know what? I might be kind of fun just going around Nashville, New Hampshire, where I'm at, just trying all of the different wacky fitness programs just to try them all.
I like that.
Just the curiosity of it.
I like that. I did that with like scuba diving and zip lining, and I tried a lot of things just to see how terrifying it would be. And it's surprisingly terrifying, by the way, to do both of those things.
What about skydiving?
I haven't done that yet, but it's
Would you?
Definitely, it's on the list. I don't like Ferris wheels. I don't like being up high on something and stuck and falling. Right. I don't mind I think it's just that you're stuck. You can't, if you don't like it, you can't get off. You got to wait till you land, you know?
It's funny. You said, I'm with you. I actually don't like roller coasters, but I love skydiving.
I do.
Because on a roller coaster, you're in, like you're going.
Yeah, you're in. It's like parasailing. I wasn't real crazy about. It's like a ski lift. I don't like all those, but I do them all just because that's the only way you get to the top of the mountain to ski. So you got to do it, right?
Yeah. You've got some good drop zones out your way and yeah. It might be something to try out. I will say it's the most freeing thing ever. And there's double parachutes. So it's not about dying. And also you don't feel like you're falling either, which is what really got me.
I did the indoor skydiving thing, and that just felt like wind beating on you.
That's what the real one feels like too. They both feel the exact same. Yeah.
I was surprised by that. In my mind, I guess I thought it'd be more gentle, like you're floating in space kind of thing. It's just whipping at you.
It's kind of violent. Yeah. That wind going like 120 miles an hour.
Like, what is that? I wasn't expecting it at all. But
yeah.
I did the indoor skydiving. Does that count for anything?
That counts. That counts. Not just a little bit of that scary factor of doing the real thing.
That's fun. They let you go up for about a second and they pull you down though. It wasn't fun.
Yeah. This is awesome. I could talk to you all day, but I know we got to get you out of here. So we're going to be in any events next coming up, or should we check you out anywhere?
Thinkers 50 in London.
Exciting.
Monday, which is like the top minds in business. I mean,
what's it called?
The Academy Awards of Business Thinkers. It's called Thinkers 50 in London. You got it. My month was just crazy. I started off with Wozniak here in Phoenix. The next week I was with Steve Forbes in San Diego. Then last week I was with Keith Kroc from DocuSign in San Francisco.
Jeez.
Just the amount of people. I was in New York the same week with Jerry Hall and Prince's Trust. So I do a lot of traveling with different people. They're all doing some amazing stuff. So it was just so much excitement. But a lot of people from my show will actually be at Thinkers 50 because it's just the people who have won for the most innovative, creative business ideas out there. And I know Oleg Kolov and a lot of people who've been on my show will be there. And I'm going to do that. And then after that, I think I'm going to I'm going to an event here in Phoenix and then a Reid Hoffman thing in California in January.
Wow.
So it's fun. I get to talk to all these really cool people.
Yeah, I was gonna say your curiosity is the green lights. You're good. You're hitting that number. That's awesome.
Well, it's just so much fun to talk to people who are just super smart. Just surround
100%.
yourself with people who are smarter than you are, and you'll have a much more interesting time.
100%, and you'll never run out of things to talk about.
Never. It's great.
Amazing. Yeah. Where can we connect with you? Where would you like us to reach out? LinkedIn, Twitter, what's good?
I'm on all the social media sites at Dr. Diane Hamilton. So that's DrDianeHamilton. So it's just my name. And you can reach me on Instagram, Facebook, all those. But I'm mostly on LinkedIn and some Twitter too.
Okay.
But my website is drdianehamilton.com, but you can also go to curiositycode.com if you just want the curiosity information. But you can get there through drdianehamilton.com as well, which on my site you can find, my radio show. We get it transcribed so you can read it.
Nice.
Kind of nice because it links to a lot of things that we talk about. And all my consulting and speaking and anything, if you want to become certified to give the Curiosity Code Index, or if you want to take training in it, everything's there.
Amazing. And the perception book, that's coming out or is that out?
Yeah, it's out next year.
Next year. What? And probably get on your mailing list and we'll.
Yeah, you can find out more. Yeah, you can see it on my mailing list. You want more information? Everything's, you can get me through my site. Everything is there.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for coming on here. This is just so much fun. Learning, but also just connecting and meeting you and hearing your experiences growing up and all those things.
You're so sweet. And I really enjoyed being on your show. We had fun talking the last time, so I was really excited to be on.
I know, right? At least we record this one. So yeah, that's always the problem, right? You're like,
yeah,
that was the best prep call I've ever had. And you're like, no one gets to hear it but us. Oh, well.
Yeah, but this was fun. We got to do it again.
Agreed. And we'll have to keep me in the loop on that perception book so we can maybe talk about it as it's getting close to coming out and we can check it out.
That's co-authors with that one. So that's going to be fun. We'll see.
That'll be really cool. Yeah. So thank you so much for being on here. For those listening, if you learned something, and I know you did because I literally have 2 pages of notes over here, share this with someone else. Help them be curious and be a thought leader to even just 1 or 2 people by sharing this episode or the notes or the links or even Diane's URLs and kind of maybe send someone a book too for Christmas. That'd be a cool idea. But thank you again, Diane, for coming on here. This has been a blast.
Thank you.
And for everyone out there, this has been the Hardcore Marketing Show. We will catch you all next time. All right. A big thank you to today's sponsors. Cheshire Impact, helping marketers and sales win, maximizing the use of Pardot and Salesforce. And a big thank you to Qualified.com, the #1 live chat and chatbot platform for Salesforce and Pardot. Remember the giveaway. If you have Salesforce Pardot and you want a free copy of my book, Marketing Automation Unleashed, then you go over to Qualified.com, engage in a chat, do a demo, and tell them that Casey sent you, and that book will be on its way to your door. All right. We'll see you all in the next one.